No one believed her, neither the neighbors, nor the school, nor even her own family. She was just another girl in a forgotten neighborhood, with charcoal in her hand and a stained wall as her canvas. But on that small peeling wall, something greater was born, something everyone could see. With fingers stained with gray and a focused gaze, she drew faces, dreams, pains, and no one realized that there was already art there. There was soul. There was a story. Today, her works are worth millions. But back then, all she had was a dream that no one saw. They said it was a waste of time. Go study, go work, do something real. They kept repeating. But she couldn't stop. Every stroke of charcoal was a silent scream against a world trying to shape her. She didn't draw to impress, she drew to survive. While others saw dirty scribbles on some random wall, she saw windows to other worlds. And even when the criticism came like stones thrown at her, she answered with silence and more art. Because those who carry a calling inside don't need anyone's permission to exist. The days were tough. There were nights when she went to bed hungry, and mornings when she woke up not knowing if she would have a place to draw. Her makeshift notebooks were made of cardboard, and her paints were mixtures of coffee, dirt, and tears. She thought about giving up many times, but something inside her burned stronger than hunger. It was as if art was her oxygen. If she stopped, she would suffocate. So she kept going, even without an audience, even without an apparent future. Because sometimes all you need is to keep going until life starts to hear your voice, and life listened. One day, an art teacher walked by the street, saw her drawings on the wall, and stopped. She stayed silent for long minutes, as if standing before something sacred. Then she simply said, "You need to be seen." The woman took her to a community art fair. It was simple without glamour, but for the first time, someone bought one of her paintings. She didn't cry for the money, she cried because, for the first time, someone had seen value in who she was. That was the beginning. From a small exhibition came another, and then another. In a short time, alternative galleries began to compete for her works. Her raw, honest art without academic filters touched places the eyes couldn't see. She spoke of the streets, forgotten pains, the beauty in chaos. When a gallery in New York paid $200,000 for one of her pieces, she just looked at her dirty hands and smiled. Those same hands that once used charcoal now signed international contracts without ever betraying her own essence. With each new exhibition, the world got to know her art, but few knew her story, and that was what made it all so powerful. There was something in her paintings that no one could ignore, a kind of pain transformed into beauty that reached even the most skeptical. But she never strayed from her roots. She still visited the street where it all began. She touched the old wall as if revisiting an altar. "Here, I was free for the first time," she would say. No matter how much the world applauded, she never forgot the sound of the silence where it all began. She began to realize that her mission went beyond art. Children from communities started writing to her. Young people told her they had started dreaming again. So she opened free art classes, teaching how to create with whatever you have: charcoal, torn paper, willpower. She always repeated, "It doesn't matter the material, what matters is the purpose." Her phrase became a mural. Her name became a symbol. But she made a point to remind everyone, "I'm just another one. If I made it, you can too." And that was what inspired the most, not her fame, but her dedication. One day, a producer wanted to turn her story into a movie, but after reading the script, she refused. "Here, you took away my pain, my struggle, my truth. This isn't fiction. This is real life." And she didn't want to be beautified. She wanted to be understood, because her scars were part of the paint. Her crooked path was part of the frame. She didn't want to be an example for being perfect. She wanted to be remembered for never giving up, even while being imperfect. And maybe that's why her art was so true, because it didn't ask for permission to feel. Awards came, international invitations, magazine covers, but so did the pressure. Critics tried to shape her. Business people wanted to soften her art. Galleries suggested more commercial colors. She listened, thanked them, and refused. She kept painting forgotten faces, tired mothers, hungry children. "My art is not for sale. My ideas, even less." The choice cost her contracts, but kept her soul intact. She knew Success without identity is just vanity in disguise. One night, looking at one of her works sold for $500,000, she didn't think about the money. She thought about the cold floor where she used to sleep, the smell of charcoal, the texture of the old wall. She smiled to herself. Because the true value wasn't in the gallery's price tag, it was in the journey that got her there. She won, but she won without losing herself. And perhaps that is the greatest triumph of all. Creating a life that, even if it weren't worth a penny, would still be a work of art. Recognition opened unexpected doors, museums, international events, invitations to speak, but her essence never changed. When she walked red carpets, she wore the same worn-out sneakers from the streets that saw her grow up. To her, true elegance was being authentic without masks. Many tried to understand her, but only those who lived the struggle knew. Art is the cry of those without a voice, and the freedom of those without a throne. She wasn't there to shine, but to light paths that were once invisible. In an interview, they asked her what she would do if no one believed in her talent. She answered with brutal simplicity, "I would have believed in myself, even if I were the last person in the world to do so." That phrase became a mantra. It became a fire that warms those who feel alone, because the greatest act of courage is trusting your own light when everything around seems to extinguish it. She taught that the first step to being seen is to never stop seeing yourself. With fame, she embraced a new mission: to transform the system that had rejected her. She fought for fairer cultural policies, claimed spaces for young artists from the outskirts, and broke barriers in elitist institutions. Her fight was not just for herself, but for all those still struggling for recognition. She refused to be the exception. She wanted to be the rule, the door, and the path. Because a victory is only true when it becomes a collective victory. Even with a full schedule, she never stopped returning to the neighborhood. She visited schools, prisons, community centers, bringing charcoal, paper, and hope. Art is the language that frees, she would say, and in every shining eye before the first stroke, she saw the confirmation. Her journey wasn't just hers, it was the story of many who just needed a chance to shine. There, among laughter, tears, and sketches, she planted the seeds of transformation. At an awards ceremony, instead of the usual speech, she took the stage and drew. In just a few minutes, she transformed a blank canvas into a raw and powerful portrait of a single mother holding a hungry child. The audience's tears didn't need words to explain the impact, because her art spoke the truth that many avoided hearing. That night, it became clear the world could finally see her worth. But the true greatness had always been in the courage to show the invisible. Today, she is not just an artist, she is a symbol of resistance and hope. Her story became an inspiration for thousands who felt invisible, proving that talent knows no address and that it's possible to transform any surface, no matter how simple, into a stage for the soul. In times when the world demands perfection and resources, she reminds us that true art is born from a heart that insists on beating stronger, even when everything seems lost. She taught us that the courage to create is a light that never goes out. It wasn't luck nor coincidence. It was a choice she made day after day, even when the world whispered surrender. She was her own cheerleader, her own support, her own voice, and that perseverance is what makes her journey so unique and real. Because deep down, this could be the story of anyone who decides not to abandon the dream that makes their heart beat. She didn't wait for the right moment, she made the right moment happen. The most beautiful thing is that she never wanted to be a distant example. She wanted to be a mirror for everyone who feels too small to dream. She freed art from the pedestal and returned the power to those who thought they had lost it. In every corner of the country, people began to draw, paint, create, and shout their truths. She sparked a flame that turned into a wildfire movement that cries out freedom, courage, and authenticity. It was no longer about her. It was about the awakening of thousands, returning to the place where it all began. She founded a cultural space where anyone can pick up charcoal and let their souls speak. White walls invite stories that have yet to be told, and it is there, in that simple and lively place, that she gives back to the community what art gave her: voice, identity, and hope. If I made it, you can too, she says. And it's not just a phrase, it's an invitation for the whole world to draw its own destiny. She taught us that the impossible is just a step, and that the greatest talent is never giving up. That art isn't taught, it's awakened. And that true success is continuing to be who you are, even when everything around tries to shape you. Her life is the masterpiece she drew herself with charcoal, courage, and a lot of faith. Now, she challenges us. What's your blank wall? What are you waiting to draw on it? Because the world will always need those who have the courage to create